Yep. There you go.
That's the guy.
Me?
Okay, you.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. It's awesome to be here and to be in this gorgeous new facility that I had a chance to come yesterday afternoon and walk through, and it just listening to people talk about it. It's just amazing. So congratulations. So we have 4 things for the work session that we've identified. The main work is to go through your annual results, policies, priorities, and look at them and see if there's any changes in advance of the staff's budget process. And we began this process probably 8-9 years ago when we tied the priority setting to budget setting in advance of that, which was a really smart idea. And that they used to be kind of disconnected, and we really connected them, and that is really powerful because it puts you in the driver's seat of where the money goes. So that's the main thing we want to do, and we will have some time also to talk about the name of the new library, not to make any decisions, obviously, maybe just kind of toss around what your thinking is around that. But I thought we could start. A lot of times we start this meeting with looking at trends, and I do want us to look back at last year's trends and see if there's anything that kind of pops out at you. But before we do that, it would be really great to just start with a little reflection of a high point for you all in the last year. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the last year, but sometimes we don't take time to celebrate. You know, it's always the next thing, the next thing. So just want you for a minute to think of one thing, one incident, one meeting, one event where you kind of went home and went, yay, you know, like, this was wonderful. And it'd just be great to kind of hear what pops out for you all. And we can start anybody who has one, and then I'll just go around. Go for it. Chief, you look so ready. Okay.
For me, it was the groundbreaking in Redmond. It was so wonderful to see so many people come out and all these children, and everybody was just so excited about seeing something start. And it's continued because there is just a constant parade of automobiles and people walking around watching the new library go up. So it's really neat.
Great.
Well, I would say that the 2 openings for sure, to just see the same deal. I mean, and Redmond too. I mean, just to see all the people coming in and just loving the spaces. I was thinking, you know, as I was driving in, just, you know, it's like there's so much that we're trying to do in each space, but to see the kids come into these spaces and just go to work, just start playing with stuff, just start pulling books off the shelves. I mean, it's like that's where we create the next generation of library users and book lovers. And when you talk to people, that's all. I mean, when you ask people about libraries, they always go back to their childhood and say, well, we used to go every Saturday or whatever. And that's where I learned to love reading and love books, and we're doing that for the kids in our communities. And it just makes me really happy.
I'd say for me, High Point has been, we're doing a lot. We are basically changing every single thing in the library. At the same time, we changed our payroll system, and we changed the way we shelve books, and just seeing everybody who works at the library operating at their peak capacity, doing what they do best. And so the high point for me was that, getting through the last month. Well, our staff's going to do a little presentation at the board meeting about what we've done in the last month. but also we had a chance to have a staff day for the first time in 5
Oh,
years.
wow.
And
Wow.
it was just so wonderful to get people together that don't get to see each other. Sorry, I'm taking longer. But
No, do tell,
Yeah.
tell a
Really
little bit
exciting.
about that.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that was exciting and a really exciting piece when we, because this library was shut down for 2 weeks. We shut the temporary, they're getting used to this. So the sister staff was able to go to Redmond so that the Redmond staff could go to the topping off ceremony for the building. And then the Redmond staff could drive to Lapine to see what their library looked like. And then the sisters, and so our staff have been kind of moving around as part of this process. And the Sun River staff has been filling in on Lapine, so Lapine staff can go to Sisters. And so it's just been really exciting to see everybody. They're very passionate about our buildings, our process, and are serving the public. And it's been very exciting for everybody.
Right.
It's been tiring.
Well, I second what Todd says, but also that Lapine Library grand opening was a magical moment. And this was next to me is just like hundreds of people were coming in and so excited to be there, and so many families. And it was just wonderful in Lapine specifically to see that turnout and to see so many young people and families coming in together and spending. They wouldn't leave, like they were there all the 2 hours and beyond.
Yeah.
And it was just a really joyous day, and it made all of this that we've been working on worth it in those
Years.
moments for sure. Yeah.
For me, it was, after Roble Road, it just seemed like such a downturn in what do we do? I thought that it was a disastrous thing. Like, what else do we do? But to finally find the Stevens Ranch property and then to see that it works, and it'll be good for them. To me, that was a big compliment.
Well, we almost know what you're gonna say, yeah, but tell us.
No, just
Yeah.
echo what everyone
Yeah.
says, but for me, one of the high points is just the community input we're getting, because I attended the one we had at the senior center, and just to have the community come in, really look at what we're doing, giving us comments, both pros and cons, but just really sharing what their view of libraries is within our community. So I really appreciate that contact that we have with our community members. It really is very helpful for me in my role as a board member.
Yeah. We're sharing a high point story from the last year. Anything that just thrilled you and delighted you?
Well, I think the high point for me is that we survived. This has been a very contentious, I'd say 3 years. Not just the pandemic, but all the elections, all the vitriol that's in the community. It's been a low point for me in, 32 years? Serving on the library board. I've never seen anything so divide a community, the whole county. And the fact that we survived that, I think, is a high point.
Okay.
I'm reserving to see what's my high point until we come through all of this.
Well, it'll always
3
be
years
the
from
next
now,
high points or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so far we've done this. But you're seeing this, and I think we're doing this now. Is it going to stay on the same slope? Is it going to increase as we open each library? If there's a bump, and we know there'll be a drop, and then there'll be a bump. But what's the trend? I always think of the trend. Are we going back to where we were and above? Or are we going to lie somewhere in between in terms of the public's opinion and support for libraries?
So that's a question to be answered. What we're just kind of sharing, like what thrilled people right now. And so I just want to follow up on some of the things you said. Why do you think there was this excitement at all the openings? With like, what created that? What had people come out, and what led to that amazing? Yeah.
It was surprising.
Okay.
I got here a little early, that day, I'm thinking, oh, I hope people show up. Oh, wouldn't it be a disaster? So I was gonna look really bad here. And then people were waiting. You couldn't get past the street because there were so many
people out there.
And to me, that's so exciting. People are excited.
Yeah.
500 people in 90 minutes. Showed up to
Yeah.
Sisters. Yeah.
I just can't, I mean, you guys aren't seeing this, but
Although they just.
Yeah, I know.
I'm looking at the kids, so excited. It's like, it's kind of a sweet meeting room,
It is.
feature, you know, like you get to see what it's all
And
about.
they got some new equipment.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yesterday.
Yes,
Cool.
oh, that was-
Good. So anything else to add about like why that was,
That's a good question. And
Yeah.
I think like in Lapine, you know, Lapine, because of the terrible accident, and they went without a library for a very, you know, a long time for that community. And that is what the joy was, that I was seeing people like, our library is back open for us. These kids were squealing and running, and the parents were just so excited to have this space back. And since we've been open, we've just continued to see that. I think Zoe was telling us there were like 80 kids or something on a Saturday show up like throughout the day. And it's just, the community is like, you know, they can take a deep breath and be in their community space again. And it feels really good. So,
And I think people were excited about the aspect of new too. I mean, they're excited. I mean, I didn't get a chance to see the grand opening in Lapine, but in Sisters, people were just so excited to go and try the different things out. And I know in Redmond and talking to people, people are just really excited about the fact that they're going to have a new space. They're really pleased about what is it gonna look like? You know, there's a lot of anticipation, and they're very excited about that.
And the fact that I was curious about how the furniture, like the shapes, the furniture stuff in the early learning spaces was gonna, how kids would react to that, and they immediately knew what to do. I mean, it was like they were moving stuff around, and we saw that in our last meeting in Lapine. It's like, because similar deal where you could see out, the kids were like rearranging everything and climbing on stuff, and I mean, it was just like so great to see all the smiles.
Ann and I were opening drawers trying to figure things out, and these little kids came in and just started doing it.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
okay then.
Right, I mean, they live with this, right? And we've had to learn it, so it is kind of amazing to, you know, I was FaceTiming with my grandson who's 6, and I lost the picture, and he said, hang on a minute, I'll go into settings and fix it. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know, but it's just more natural for them.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to watch what's going on here. I'm like, I did come in here last night, and there were lots of teens using the library last night. Yeah, it was very cool to see. We just kind of wandered around.
And we've got a baby down here with the mirrors. It's just like,
it's very cool.
and you know, from knowing people, a lot of people with little kids, especially getting these buildings open as winter is coming, because I mean, there are limited, if you have buckets of money, there are lots of places to take your kids, but if you don't have buckets of money, where do you take your kids on a 40-degree day when it's raining outside, you know? And the library is a great magnet for families to bring their kids to get books, to have, you know, an activity to get out of the house. And I just am really glad these are open when they are.
one other highlight that will be right here on this wall is the artist that we hired, and her name's Christy Kuhn. And I'll pass this around. This is not, it will be colored.
It's going to be painted.
Yeah, so the wall will be painted, and then this type of art will be placed on this wall, almost the full length of it. And so it'll be a really beautiful, dramatic.
So it's felting?
It's felt.
Wow.
This is so
And
cool.
Thank you.
almost, well, it's 3D, like it'll come out, but it'll be like in the shape of maybe a river or something. I'll have color in it, muted color. And that should be getting hung in December sometime, so I'll let you all know when that happens, but that's a huge highlight. She's a very talented artist, and when she learned about the library's project, she applied, and that's who we chose. Really cool.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
It'll be beautiful. So most people get colored.
I've heard a lot of comments about the chairs. I haven't sat in the chairs by the fireplace.
Oh,
Yeah.
People are telling me those are the most comfortable chairs I've ever sat in.
I want those chairs.
Yeah.
It might be a fundraiser for the library.
Yeah, really. You can have access to these chairs. for a price.
The highlight for staff is this.
This.
I'm using 4 fingers.
Yeah.
These things weigh about 30 pounds.
Wow.
They are light.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we don't hurt our shoulders by
That's
staffing
amazing.
out the program staff.
Cool.
Oh,
Doing that all day
nice.
long.
So many details were
Yes.
considered,
Yeah.
so many details that a lot of people won't see so many of these things, but it all contributes, yeah.
And we've been really lucky because our staff has they've put in so many hours, as you
Yeah.
said, so many details, and they have worked so hard to make the choices that are best for our system, for the public library, so.
So was staff day somewhat quite a bit celebratory?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It was just, that chance. It's kind of like going to a family reunion. The fact that I'm connected to my aunt. I'm sorry, I'm picking. I'm connected to my younger stepsister. But never see each other, and just that, and then to realize a big piece of what we did is we had people break into groups and just talk about what's my day like.
Wow.
And that was really eye-opening for people that maybe have worked with somebody in the same building for a long time, but never quite, they kind of knew what their title was. Anyway, it was
Interesting. Cool. Great. Anything else from the kind of start off with that celebratory conversation? Okay, so now we're going to transition and we're going to do what we've done for many, many years, which is, you should have it in front of you, is the prioritization of your results policies. And before we do that, we usually look at trends. And if you look at the notes you should have in your packet from November 9th, 2022, exactly a year ago, we looked at these trends, and I didn't make a big copy of it just because I figured there probably aren't going to be giant changes in trends, but I did want to just give you a chance to look those over because that sets the stage for
and I didn't print out the trends.
I was gonna say, where are they?
oh, you don't have that?
No,
Oh,
I just printed out the results were.
okay, well, let me read them to you then.
Sure,
Okay?
yes.
Okay, because I think it was sent out, I believe. No, apologies
Sorry.
then for not printing it out. Okay,
Do you want
so
to
here,
print? I can rent you a copier.
I think it's nothing gonna be too
Yeah.
yeah, and we don't have any standard paper either, so, okay, check, we'll know for the next time.
Yes.
Okay, so the number one trend was the pandemic. And what you all said was it reinforced the importance of physical connections, face-to-face meetings were missed, number one. Number two, polarization, that there's polarization in the community around a lot of things, and your comment last year was it may even get more polarized. So we're seeing a lot of that. The role of technology, Zoomism, digital platforms opened up opportunities and changes how people meet and gather. 4, community issues. So there is a lack of capacity in the county to deal with homelessness, mental illness, and other social issues. And reading the bulletin, I'm well aware that that has not gone away, but that was number 4. 5, change in work, lots of telecommuting, really been becoming a Zoom community, a lot of hybrid work. I can't tell you how many people I know who've moved to Bend and work remotely. Crazy. 6, meaning of community and neighborhood. So the change in how community and neighborhood is defined, not necessarily physical proximity. People create community in different ways. So you identified that as like the way people gather, either young families or different ethnic groups or whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, population increase. You said increases of 4,000 to 6,000 a year. One of the fastest growing counties in the country, older, richer, and growing Latino. And the final one was decrease in affordable living, cost of housing, cost of living rising steadily, wealthy newcomers. So those were the big trends that you've been kind of keeping in your at the forefront of your thinking as you transition to talking about your results. So do those still seem valid? Are there any changes to them or other things that you think are really critical to add?
The number 3 was Zoom and new ways of meeting.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about this. It's more of a question. Is that changing? I mean, we certainly have the capability, everybody does. If you want to Zoom, you can Zoom and not come in. But is that slowly reverting back?
Good question.
It's, I personally have seen a lot of kind of like we are now, we legally have to, but kind of like we are right now, we're on Zoom. But I've had a lot of meetings where it's kind of like a hybrid piece, and it's kind of that extra piece of, hey, that person that can't drive in from Sisters for that 1 hour meeting, we have an option.
So I think it's continuing on about the same.
But for
I'm
a
not sure
different
everybody,
reason,
yeah.
like I think we're in more meetings with more people on a regular basis. Like almost all my meetings are in person. But the Zoom element is there for the people who maybe can't for some reason. So it just makes it more available to more people. So it's a really great tool now that I think everyone's just adopted because it allows for more access. But what I've experienced is more in-person meetings with people than a year ago even.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think from the work standpoint, it would be interesting to get statistics on this because this is just anecdotal, but I think a lot of national recruiting is being done with that. It's like specifically you have to live in wherever versus you can do this from anywhere. I think that has really remained strong. And obviously not for all types of jobs, but for a lot of types of jobs. And I think part of that is driving the wealth that's coming to Bend. I think there are executive level jobs and where people are working remote. A lot of people are working remotely.
But also one of the things that I've seen, I know with one of my son-in-laws and a couple of other friends of ours, their kids, they may have the option to do hybrid, but a lot of the businesses are saying, or a lot of organizations are saying, you've got to come in X number of days in a week, and then the rest of it you can work from home if you want. But they're wanting to pull that face-to-face back in. At least that's been the experience that I've heard about some of the people in their 30s and their 40s and their businesses and things.
So people got some skill, unwanted, but got some skill during COVID that they have now kind of normalized is kind of what you're saying. And it's a tool, especially here when the weather gets really, really bad.
But I think are we talking about number 3, digital platforms or change in work?
Well,
Change in work is really what we've been talking about.
Kind of
meetings
relate to both,
Yeah, but digital platforms, my recollection we discussed it was how do people access what they want? Not work really necessarily. Okay. It's anything they want to go recipes, restaurant reviews, things like that, travel, books. that was the change in the digital platforms, how does that affect us? As far as work goes, what I'm seeing on national reports, I get all these, and international, is that people are valuing, the younger generation now values their decision-making over how they work and where they work, what they do, which is why we have the great, what do they call it? The great quitting?
Yes, very good.
The great resignation. They're finding that their quality of life, their control over life is more important than the company they're working for. And we've been seeing that for quite a while. It's a dramatic change because it used to be when we did surveys of worker staff, what do they value, what do they want most in their job? It always varied between 1 and 2. Number 1 and 2 was always having a say in how I do my work and having recognition for my work.
Money was always down.
Money was down, and money was
there.
It was the top 5.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the money, no matter what you do. Right.
Hey,
But
good.
now it's become a way of life for an entire generation,
Yeah.
saying, I can resign.
Yeah.
It's almost like we have an entire generation of consultants.
Yeah.
They know their skills. And exactly.
Excellent.
I used to consult. When I did consulting after real life,
Yeah.
it was like, I can tell you what you hired me to tell you and give you why. And if you don't like it, I will go to my next client.
Yeah.
Because they will want it also. And I think we have an entire generation of this will work.
That's a really good point, because they're the next set of library users and the parents of the future set. Any others pop out at people like?
I'll just highlight, because we talked about the
Yeah.
pandemic,
Mhm,
that it was kind of a little like people are coming back
Mhm.
last year. People, I mean, we're seeing that 500 people are willing to cram into a building.
mhm.
And we're seeing it over and over with their programs, with that we have definitely shifted back to people coming back live. And I know that was a question 3 years ago, would that happen? And so that's, I would say that's definitely a shift in that trend.
Cynthia?
Well, I was gonna say about polarization,
Mhm.
most definitely, I think that still exists tremendously, but I can't help but think that Redmond's just a microcosm of what's happening in other small communities. And what I'm seeing in Redmond is there are all these people who are beginning to come together, who are tired of the idea of dismissing other people's. And there's a lot of young people who've moved into Redmond who feel like, you know, we need to be a community as a whole. We need to accept people. We need to be more caring about people who have less than us. And I'm seeing a lot of those organizations, they're actually gaining the numbers. And it's been a really interesting thing to see because, you know, I see as a whole, I think as a nation, yes, I think we probably experience polarization, but I think as little communities, we're really trying hard to do away with that. That's not healthy for a community, and I think most people see that.
I think that ties into the pandemic and mental health, the isolation, especially for the youngest kids and teens. It's affected them. They get PTSD. And now that we know that they have PTSD, we do something about it. They're doing it themselves. What I'm saying is, I'm worried into the future, next year's election. We could go through this all over again, depending on what happens there. We could be a throwback. I mean, I hate to say it, but we could get ourselves kicked in the butt. You know, we all tend to associate with people who think like ourselves and are like ourselves. So my cohort of people who think like me has gotten bigger just because they're out now and we're out and about. I'm not sure it's gotten better. I hope it has, between the polarization. I hope it's gotten better, and it's not that people have decided who they like and they just don't come and talk to me.
It's hard to know.
It's hard to know.
I'm
glad they don't, because I don't you know, I want to walk down the street in public and say, you bum.
Let me ask you about population increases. Is that still about the trend, 4,000 to 6,000? And okay. So in continuing with Latino growth or Latino population as well, or even with the housing affordability?
It's all up.
Okay.
I don't know how long that's going to be able to continue. We're actually finding, we're trying to recruit firefighters at the higher levels. The first question the city asks of any new applicant is, do you know the cost of living here?
Yeah.
And half of just withdraw the application, and it's like, we're hiring Rob, Peter, Dave, Paul.
But if you look at Stevens Ranch, all that stuff, these affordable, huge.
That's 4,000 dwelling units.
Wow.
And then
we
there's
gotta be
like
able to-
thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of apartments coming online
absolutely.
within the next
Yeah.
year, right? Isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's really gonna be interesting to see. I mean, because I think part of one of the things that's driven cost has been lack of availability and like when I think in Bend, when it gets flooded with rentals in the next year, what effect that will have on price.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully it'll adjust.
Yeah, that would be great.
If we
Needs to
factors
balance
still
out.
there though.
Any other trends you wanna just keep in your,
One trend which is interesting, it just came out from the American Library Association, and we had heard about it, and then it was reported that Gen Z and millennials read books. They don't like digital. They're going more and more, they love being in libraries and they like reading books, real books, not digital, not online, not audio.
right,
And that is just part of the whole culture of, you know, the recyclability of a library, everything that we stand for, basically renting a book instead of buying a book. So all of that ties in.
so you bring up something really important, because we've kind of focused our context discussions on the community, but it would be really useful to spend a couple of minutes just talking about sort of library trends or in general trends like that will impact you. So are there other things in your, as you read?
Well, in that same, magazine from the ALA, they're talking a lot more and more about banned books and how
Oh,
those
okay.
really.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy days.
I haven't seen, Todd and I were talking before, and I said, you know, I always look at the trends. We haven't seen anything like the Pew reports coming out in the last 8 years or so.
Yeah.
Right? There haven't been any surveys, really good surveys, valid surveys being done about how people are using libraries. What's the effect? The last ones they had was the Technology Society and the role of libraries. Well, then the pandemic hit, and we went, okay, heavily into technology, and libraries went, first got to close. I haven't seen any reports really or studies or anybody's doing something. This thing with the millennials and the Gen Xers, Gen Z, whatever. That's interesting.
Yeah, it just came.
It's good that we have those things. We need that type of study to inform us as to what are patrons thinking, or what the general community thinks.
Yeah, really good point. Because some of those studies were really helpful.
Oh, they informed us.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I think staff observations of what's happening in our buildings, because our region is, I mean, national trends are useful, very useful, but local trends are just as important, because and within each community, because each of our communities is so different from each other. So what do we see in our buildings? Like, who's using this, who's not using this, what are the issues locally? And I think that's, you know, the community librarians and all of that help inform us about what's going on in each town.
or, you know, what do the community members think about libraries? Why do they think libraries should exist or not exist? Because when we look at people come to the library, that's very selective group. These are the people who already want to use the library. They want us for whatever their reason is. But what about the general population out there? We're serving the entire community. Do we know what's going on?
Those are like,
It's difficult.
continuing questions that you guys are always focused on. So let's pivot. And the kind of the part of what we're here to do today is to look at your results policies. And before you came in, Ray, I was just saying that you started doing this about 8-9 years ago of prioritizing ahead of budget setting so that it informs staff. And we set these priority definitions, which is one, just reminding everybody, if it's on here, it's a priority, right? So, because the idea is not to wallpaper the walls with the 50,000 things that you could be doing. That these are really the most critical. If already it's on here, it's critical. 3 would be, we need increased attention and more investment. So not everything can be a 3 because you have X amount of resource, human and financial. 2 is the current level of activity and investment should continue, kind of stay the course. It could mean that increased resources have been given in the past. So it maybe was a 3, we did some stuff here, and we're now kind of like, okay, we're continuing as a 2. Or this is how my husband used to give all these B+, A- grades. Okay, a 2+ indicates that the library should stay the course, but if additional resources are available, we should consider additional investment, right? So that's a 2+. And then 1, low, I don't even like that word low for this because it doesn't really reflect what you're really about because they're all really important. But low is, result is important, but may have a lower level of investment or funding at this time. Might try to achieve it with an alternative strategy or a partnership, but it's not something that we're really going to add a lot of resource to. So we kind of have the 3 is more resource right now, 2, stay the course, and then 1, think about it's important, but we might get to it a different way. So those still work for everybody, those definitions? Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's start off with the first policy. We don't score the mega policy one, but number 1, all residents require appreciation of reading and desire for knowledge, of which we have many examples right behind the window there right now. So number 1, residents find physical and digital materials when and where they want them and obtain the help they need to make choices. So this whole first policy you gave a 2, but let's talk about that. We can stay on this first bullet. How does that fit with what you're planning, what you're doing, what you think should be the result here?
Well, I would like to see all of these bump up once we get the building projects finished.
Okay.
Because I think your point about resources, including human resources, staff resources. I mean, there's only so many things you can focus on at the same time. And I'm sort of amazed that you've been managed to pull up all this other stuff other than just building focused stuff. I mean, so it's like, we've got to run our libraries. We've got to manage all the stuff that's going on. So we don't have a lot of excess right now, but in the future, once these libraries get open, based on the trends we're seeing of people being comfortable with coming back. And I just think programming is a great way to get people in the doors and expose them to everything else that is here. And it's really important for our community for all these reasons that we talked about polarization. And I mean, like the ability to have discussions on key issues and things like that are really key parts of what we're trying to accomplish, I think. So, I mean, in the future, bump them up.
Like we could be sitting here a year from now and it could be a 3.
Yeah.
Actually, I can tell you a year from now, these will be naturally bumped up.
Okay.
Right.
Because we're gonna, as each building comes on, we have more space for physical materials, more space for programs. So that's that.
Okay.
I agree with you. We'll definitely want to come back to this and say, what more can we do? But it's gonna naturally occur over the next
Right,
years.
right.
Cynthia?
Well, I was thinking actually now with the new Wayfinder system and with the new technology that's in the two buildings that are open right now. So that was what I was thinking it should be bumped up, but.
I was thinking the same thing, Cynthia, is the Wayfinder, because I know when I was down in Philippine opening, there were some questions about, you know, the new signage and all of that. And so I know there've been a lot of questions about how the Wayfinder system works and all of that. So I think that's important that our patrons understand that new concept.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're actually talking about the first bullet could
Yeah,
be
right.
a 3 right now,
Right.
whereas the others might be stay at 2 until, is that kind of
Maybe
what-
2
that's what I
plus,
was
say
thinking
2 plus,
of.
maybe.
or a 2 plus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that will require,
Under
a
the
lot of
first bullet, right?
investment. It'll just,
Well, in terms of what Ann, you were
Yeah.
talking about, it's
Yeah.
a lot about communication and training.
Okay,
I think
yeah.
for Wayfinder,
yeah,
because everyone who hasn't yet been on it.
Yeah.
And it might help, because this does lead into budget,
yeah.
is the realization that yes, the building projects are taking up a lot of our resources, including staff resources. And the next step is, as the buildings open, that will mean an increase in staffing as well.
Mhm.
So a lot of resources will go in that general direction.
Mhm.
It's kind of an interesting thing, because it's going to help some of these things, but it's also going to limit, for example, if we made everything a 3.
Yeah.
That's happening. So it's kind of an interesting piece. I hate to keep pointing to, hey, once this is done, everything will be great, but it's kind of hand in hand. That's kind of the playing field we're looking at for the next couple of years.
but the
So-
message is clear as far as everybody wants people to
Yeah.
understand. Wayfinder, right?
Yes,
I think
very
that's,
much.
yeah.
So the first bullet will pump up to a 2 plus around that,
Mhm.
right? Because that will definitely impact the staffing there. Or let me just ask, I just want to be sure, because 2 plus means, should we have more staff or money, we'll put more time to it. 3 is, we really want to have increased attention to it. So I just want to check with you all. Do you mean a 2 plus on this first bullet, or do you mean a 3? Because I was hearing 2 different things, so.
I think it should be a 3. This is new and this will
Yeah.
need more people in a brand new library.
And is that doable, Todd, if it was a 3?
Well, I think kind of I am going to be increasing staffing. Well, you're going to be increasing staffing. And so
Okay.
I think based on the conversation we're having, that
Yeah.
ties right into that. So yes,
Okay.
I could
I was
definitely.
I was having cognitive dissonance there for a minute, because
Yes.
your words seem to indicate, no, we do need to be doing this now.
Mhm.
Okay, everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
What's your timing on the opening of Redmond?
Next fall, so right about
now,
for October.
yay.
Next fall, so does that fall into next year's budget?
It falls in next year, well, it actually kind of falls into this year's budget, because
July.
we're gonna start hiring those people and get them trained, so they're ready when 2,000 people show up.
Well, before June.
Yes, yes, we're actually looking, probably in starting recruitment around February, March.
Okay.
Okay.
In that case, it would be.
Yeah, good, okay,
January.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the second bullet. Good discussion, everyone. This is why we do this, like this, whoever thought of this? I mean, we always had the policies, but we never, I can't remember how it all evolved, like that we started prioritizing. We were here for that.
We always prioritized, but we went to the numbers
Yeah,
because everything was a 3.
yeah, exactly.
But in the beginning, everything is a 3.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a
next
3D.
bullet has to do with your programs. So I think I heard earlier, kind of stay the course on this one.
So because of space.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
space is an issue right now.
Anybody else? Is that kind of, we've sort of talked about that when we were talking about the school. Okay, the last one, residents explore and discuss topics in safe and neutral environment. So kind of again, space related.
Yeah.
Keep it as a choose, stay the course and,
I think so.
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
So, sorry,
yeah,
I'm actually saving this online, so
It's 2 and 2.
2 and 2, okay.
yeah, and I'm also, will do notes for you. I always do a summary, so
I just,
you'll get those from me.
okay, good, I just wanted to.
Yeah. Okay, residents understand the types and scope of services that the library provides. And last year you gave it a 2+.
I think we still should maintain it as a 2+. I think
There's
it's
a lot going
I think that's an ongoing thing. I think that's one of the things our staff's really good at doing, but I think it needs to be a focal point.
Yeah.
We can
2+
do-
or 3 even.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
so much going on.
Yeah,
And so many things
Yeah.
to communicate to
Yeah,
staff.
exactly.
I mean, just about like
That's
new
true.
wayfinder,
yeah,
all the programs,
Yeah.
all the building projects, deadlines that are shifting, like there's just, we've never had more to communicate. Right.
and again,
do
look at your
things that-
definitions. 2+ is stay the course, but if we should, if we have available staff, we'll do it. 3 is we're gonna invest more time and money into this.
I would say 3.
Yeah.
Because if you have stuff and and no one knows about it, it's just the same as not having it. So I think 3 is really appropriate right now. We need really strong communications because people have a lot of questions and you've seen that.
Especially if you think staff is gonna be pulled away from what they might be doing to help.
Yeah.
Does it seem doable? I mean, I'm already sitting here thinking a year from now, not everything can be a 3. But
You get more reasonable.
yeah. But does that make sense that you would really continue to focus on that?
And beyond everything we're doing, just the fact that there are 4,000 to 6,000 new people every year.
That's true.
We have to let them know.
Yeah.
What we have.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering, because you're gonna increase staff, our fixed costs are going to increase dramatically. I would, in my mind, priority is staffing. If you had to make the choice between the 3rd bullet and the 1st bullet.
Which one are you in
We're
now?
on number 2.
We're on number 2.
Number 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so but there you're talking about where's the budget, where's the revenue? Where's our funding going to go in terms of dollars? And then the staff is there. If you had to make the hard choice between these two, I would say staffing is more important. I would just say this is a 2+ to let you know.
But this is staffing.
Yeah, just to
Well,
clarify.
this is
Are we
using
talking about number 2?
services. Yeah, services.
Yeah.
I think this is describing.
This is communicating to the public.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which does take staff.
It takes staff, but does it require more staff than you have right now, or we communicate in different ways?
It's all of it. Yeah.
Based on what we're seeing and the load of what we're doing, probably yes.
Yeah.
And also realize that this helps support frontline staff. Because that's one of their biggest frustrations is
Good point.
why isn't the word out about this, or how can we get, I'm doing this project, how can we get that word out to people?
Yeah.
So when you look at the results are, what do you want to have happen out there, right? They're about them, as we always describe the results. And to get there, you have money that you use for human resources or physical things, or, operating systems or buildings or whatever. So the results policies are really more about the outcomes, and your tools are really, like you're talking about, the people, the money, the technology, whatever, your physical spaces, cool new chairs, whatever. You know, so the question is, do you have the human resources and money to, and you're almost saying, I think what I heard you say, Pat, was if we don't do it, then it actually takes more time for
Well,
staff.
and I throw in the other side, because Ray has a really good point. It's everything that we have a deficiency in right now, it's staffing.
Okay.
It's lack of people to get things done. As opposed to, which is the good side, it's like we are not suffering from lack of resources, for example, for the communication staff that are trying to get things out. They have all the resources they need, they just need time to do it, and that's going to be the same for like first one, the physical and digital materials. Well, that's kind of a combination. That's actually, yeah.
So, but if you give us 3, it means that you will assign more budget to the bodies to do some of that.
Yeah, I'd say, and the reality with this is, then we go develop the budget, we come back to the same group and say, from what you said, here's what we can do. Now, if it gets down to the budget and I can't find the money to do it, we're gonna revisit the discussion, but that really helps me know which direction you want me to start pushing.
Right, and I mean, that's part of this, is I don't view this as a directive of Todd, you're gonna do this. It's like we're letting Todd know kind of where we would like to see emphasis, and then it's up to him to figure out how to make that happen. Like whether that means temporary consultants or like, you know, what he can decide the balance of the needs within the organization. And if the need for staff in Redmond is screaming, you know, maybe it's a half-time person instead of a full-time person, or, you know, whatever. But that's part of his judgment as manager.
Very good clarification of the process.
And by the way, you already approved the staff in Redmond in this year's budget.
Right, yeah, no, I know.
So that's good news.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay, good. That was a good clarification. So, all right, moving on to the 3rd results policy. All residents find safe and welcoming places to meet and interact with others or to engage in individual pursuits. So these were 3s last year. Residents enjoy the library as a gathering space, meeting space, cultural center for the community in a non-intimidating and supportive environment. And then the second one was browsing the collection, free from unreasonable disturbances, distractions, or adorable babies. So you gave us those 3 last year. What I'm trying to remember back what the thinking was. It's the buildings.
All the bond projects we're doing is this is where we're meeting those. So
Stay the court at 2+, because we already have the.
Well, yeah, I guess we're not asking for more money for that.
More, so it's like a 2+.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because really we're implementing the bond projects, so it's happening. So that's a good point. It's not like we're looking to add more to it.
Right.
Or is it a 2?
That makes sense.
Or is it a 2? Good question. The 2 is stay the course. 3 is stay the course, but we should put more money.
And what's a 2+?
2+ is 2 is
give additional resources.
Yeah, we have the right level of support. I mean, you're implementing the bond.
I'd make an argument. I'm with Ray with 2, because really, even if we threw more money at it, we don't have the capacity to do more. Plus, it doesn't make sense when we're implementing some major projects.
Others?
Sounds good to me.
I love to see the 2s up there. Okay. Any more? Everybody always wants everything to be a 3, so you guys, but you really understand this process and how it plays into budgeting and all that stuff. Like, I wish more organizations would do this. It's like have your priorities up front, communicate, and then comes back, and it's really brilliant. Should really presented at a workshop. Okay, number 4. Residents obtain information to resolve an issue, answer a question, have the skills and research, search, locate, and evaluate information to meet their needs. So there are a bunch of things here. First one, residents obtain the information they need to fully participate in community decision making. Last year you said 2 for that.
Again, that's one that I'd like to see go up. in the future,
That's what I was
yeah,
just
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
too.
but right now, I think we're doing what we can do.
So you're all thinking about what the year is ahead and what the real critical things are. Okay. Yeah.
And that one, again, somewhat comes down to space availability.
Okay.
And so we don't have Redmond, we have a 10 space in Redmond.
Mhm.
We now have this building in Lapine open, which is great. Sun River, we won't.
Yeah.
And we don't have students here. So those are, it's about space sometimes.
Okay.
But no, it's good.
Everybody good with that too? Okay, next one. New.
Wait,
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
no, I think,
Okay.
I think there should be at least a 2+.
To talk.
If we have resources available, and staff, funding, space,
Mhm.
then we should make this a higher priority than just stay the course. The community needs, people want to get back together. If they want to get back together, maybe we should be a little more proactive in trying to build back a sense of community. I mean, we are supposed to be the center of community. So we should put that when all the resources, if more resources become available, like if Lapine is open, Sun River open, those facilities are there. Should we put emphasis here on trying to help those communities? We're not going to do all of them all at once. Do it as they become available, come online. Spacing things out, timing is critical in terms of using staffing resources. Takes the burden off staff. Not everybody has to do it all at once.
I see, but a lot of heads nodding at that. So what others kind of 2+ is, let's keep our eye on this if more resources become available.
As it becomes, as we open the libraries, let's make this part of why what people want out of the library, what they're going to get.
Does that make sense?
We may have a stealth program for this, this is what they're going to get.
Everybody we've always done this by consensus. Good, everybody, anybody not?
With that.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
So this is 2+ on the first bullet. Okay. You seem to be really focused on while you're doing your facility stuff, you're really focused on communication and, helping people, really understand what you have here. Okay. New residents obtain information in a supportive environment and use library resources designed to assist their transition to life in Central Oregon. So last year that was a 2+. Did you want to talk a bit about if that happened? And
Actually, yeah, for this one, I'll chime in first. This is one that we specifically look at. This, for me, it represents our largest population of kind of new residents that we're trying to get, and that's the Latino population. And I think this is actually one that it's time, we're at a tipping point where it needs to move up to a 3. We have a very successful librarian that is doing an incredible amount of work, but we need to build a scaffolding around that to make her successful and also get to the next level of, now that we get people engaged, we have work to do to get people in our libraries that can actually speak with them once they get here. And so that's a big project that we're going to be starting, is how is that going to look? And it's the time we moved from kind of having a representative on staff or 2 representatives on staff to having a very holistic approach. And so that's going to need resources.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It does, because I think when we think about new residents, we always I think our mindset goes to the people who are moving here because they're able to. They can afford to live here, but we've got a whole segment of population moving in to help support. And so I think our efforts to reach that population is more important,
Yes.
almost in a
Right.
sense than,
Oh, yeah.
The need is greater.
Right,
Yeah.
the need is greater and the resources for them
Yes,
is greater.
exactly.
Yes.
Right, yeah, no, that's true.
So we call it a 3, but I'm just, because I'll put it in the minutes, like with a focus on, how would you say, what were you just describing? This like building a.
To
Underprivileged.
to really, well, very specifically supporting how we serve our Latino population.
Okay.
And I think another piece, which I'm glad we're looking at 3, is it's also a level where we need to be able to show our staff that's trying to do that, that they have the support of the board.
Right.
And so this will be hope to be a strong message to
Yeah.
them that this is a priority.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that really has a lot to do with staff retention too. I mean, like, are you just saying you want to do it, or are you actually committing resources to doing something that's gonna be successful?
Is it check the box or?
Right, yeah, no, I think that
Okay.
that's,
Every community organization is stealing your culturally aware individuals.
Mhm.
All right, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
Council on Aging is doing it. We're gonna do it actively. Here's one of the places I'm gonna steal it from. But I don't know if we have new residents. We've focused in the past on the minority.
Mhm.
I'm seeing a growing minority of people, wealthy, affluent, telecommuters, who are not integrating into the community.
Mhm.
And as they increase, one, they've got the money,
Mhm.
they've got kids.
Mhm.
New phenomenon in my neighborhood. How can anybody with a family afford to buy these homes? Because they don't work here.
Right.
They also don't spend their money here because they're ordering off Amazon online because it's cheaper. And they're not part of the community. They don't go downtown. They don't do anything in the community. It's around their kids at school, and that's it.
Mhm.
So I'm concerned that we're having a new minority appearing that's not in need.
The affluent minority.
The affluent people who are going to retire very early in life,
Yeah.
who are buying multiple properties here,
Yeah.
we're going to have
We see-
financial, economic influence on the community because of where they're donating to.
Yeah.
But if they're not part of the community, we're just going to increase polarization.
Mhm.
I think there's an aspect of that, yes, but I see a lot of the young families that are moving in, and they most definitely want to be part of the community. And I mean, I've had 4 new neighbors move in, they were young families, and because I have a sign in my front yard that says all people are welcome, they have sought me out and just talked to me and said, you know, can you tell me some things about the community? How long have you lived here? And so they very much want to become want to be part of what's happening.
And that may be,
So I don't think it's just, I think maybe it's both. I don't think it's as negative.
Yeah. But it's also very interesting to hear Cynthia, you're almost an ambassador. Like your
Yeah.
sign, and it got me thinking, you know, could that be something you could
that may
do?
be a reflection of differences in our community.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
for
Do you
sure.
live in,
Woodside Ranch.
okay, and you're in Redmond?
Southeast
I'm in
Bend,
Redmond.
and that's,
Mhm.
Yeah.
we're right up there.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying I don't totally agree with you. I just think that
No, that's
there's,
your point.
I
there's
think
a lot
there's,
of differences.
Totally.
Yeah,
I
I
think we
mean-
have very unique communities.
Yeah.
And each have
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for this, what you're saying here is we really want to continue, we want to support this work that we're doing here.
yeah.
I'm looking at that.
And by making number 2 a 3.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
is designed, I mean,
Yeah.
they're both designed to draw
Yeah.
people in and
Exactly.
to inform people
Yeah.
about what we've
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
And, you know, so
Yeah.
I think,
so what perfect time to do that, Chantal, we're gonna add?
Oh, just that, you know, I 100% agree with Todd about the Latino population. That's
Mhm.
really been an area that our staff has been most concerned about, and we have too. So now thank you.
Yeah.
To be able to focus and dedicate on that. And then just in general, for any newcomer coming into Deschutes County, we send welcome postcards. We have a new welcome brochure that people get when they get their library card. We've seen a major increase in library cards because we have made that available online and also in Spanish. And so we're already beginning some good work, but we really need to kind of double, triple the efforts, right?
And I know the Latino Association, they have become very involved
They
with
have,
library
yes,
and
very
reached
much
out in a lot of ways, which has
Yes,
been great.
it's been wonderful, yes.
And even at the opening, seeing the number of Latino families, I thought it was really great at both
I
open.
know.
It was really.
What is your percentage now of Latino population?
It was 7.5%, but I'm not sure as of
It varies in like
yeah.
in Redmond, it's 11 to 14%.
Okay. Gotcha.
And Ben was-
Okay, what are you gonna say?
Can we track library usage by different populations?
No, because we don't keep
Well,
Race,
that
demographic,
demographic.
Yeah, because we don't want the government coming in.
right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we can't do it under the table.
But, you know, they're one of those.
I'm not saying anything illegal,
Well,
not illegal, but hey, you know.
Kind of
Yeah.
what we're almost looking at. It doesn't get to your answer, but we're almost looking for an anecdotal, like we know, we have El Dia de los Niños and 500 people show up.
yeah,
What we're trying to translate that into is just, does that family, when they walk in the door, feel welcome?
Yes.
Have somebody that can speak
Yeah.
their language?
yes.
And we almost need to get to that before we even start worrying about the statistics of how they're used.
Yeah.
Because,
So it seems like this, what you're planning here is a building block to get to
Yes.
that next
Yes.
step.
Right.
Because our community librarians and other staff are out in the community,
Yeah.
reaching,
Yeah.
let's say, the Latino
Yeah.
population, embracing them to have them come in, but it's when they get in, like Todd's
Yeah.
saying, how do we make it that is the most welcome environment for them? Yeah.
Okay, this is always such a rich discussion when we do this every year. So. Okay, next one. Residents have the support they need to improve their technology literacy skills, and last year you gave it a 2. Data course. I picked up your
I think
brochure. There's a lot of stuff related to that in there. Yeah.
I don't know, there's a 1+.
Yeah.
Got a
Well,
whole generation that knows a heck of a lot
Okay.
more than they do.
well, let's talk about that. Is
Although we have an older generation like me who, but I don't go to the library to get those skills. I go online.
Yeah. What kind of state?
Right, and there's not any
Yeah.
new big,
Yeah.
huge breaks. I mean,
Breakthroughs.
nothing has changed dramatically,
Yeah.
so people, I think, have kind of gotten the skills they
Yeah.
need to do what they do.
Yeah. Well, AI, of course.
Yeah, I'm just thinking AI.
I use it all the time.
Oh.
I will tell you about it. Yeah,
It's pretty fast.
it's pretty scary. Yeah. So what do you think? Leave it at 2? Stay the course? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Residents have access to the digital world with no unnecessary restrictions or fees. And last year you gave that a 2 as well, stay the course.
Mhm.
And that's one that's actually, it's improving on, like for right now. As we open these buildings, we've got the fastest internet in town.
Right.
Exciting for a little
Yeah.
bit, Lapine was the fastest internet connection in the county,
Wow.
which is unique for there. Now it's still fastest, but we have sisters up and they're fast.
Very cool.
So that's kind of a neat thing that as these buildings are coming on, the technology is coming with it.
You still have like where we used to have where people can park outside, like even when the building's closed and they can.
Right.
So cool. That's so cool.
How far can we extend that?
How far, like how, location wise, you mean?
I don't.
Outside the building, how
Yeah.
far can we actually go?
I don't know.
That's a good
Oh.
question.
Is it just
Mark.
equipment limited?
I don't know. I'd have to ask.
Yeah,
that's
interesting
I know
question.
you looked at like the rooftop of downtown Bed
Yeah.
Library to see
How
how
far
far
we can
the
go.
radius
Yeah.
can be, but yeah, I think that's a mark.
Yeah.
Well, and is it
Take your computer, Ray.
Are we,
Well, yeah.
are we meeting demand with what we
Yeah.
have versus?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
like if every parking place around the building is full after hours because people are using
good
it,
point.
then maybe
Right.
we want
Yeah.
to expand,
Yeah.
but is it meeting the
Yeah.
need?
It was especially important during COVID.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Super
Yes.
important.
Yes.
No, I'm thinking if people log on.
Yeah.
If we can actually go into the residential area with our signal, they can log on at home if they have a library card. It's like our apps. Canopy is brought to you by,
Yeah, we'd have.
this internet connection is brought to you by, enter your library card number to have access. People are using the library.
Right, I mean,
Well,
it's like, I think right now, what we're doing is adequate, so it
If
can.
we wanted to go that direction, we'd have to completely research that, because
Yeah.
that takes up
Yeah.
bandwidth.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like a priority for this.
Not a
For
priority,
the
but
time being,
Yeah,
but
but it's interesting.
Just.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
maybe
last,
Wiley can tell us or Mark can tell us.
Mhm, Mark, yeah.
and you can always pivot. I mean, God forbid we have another pandemic or something, you know, whatever, you pivoted and you made that stuff available. So,
Right.
last one, residents who have difficulty accessing library facilities obtain library services. Last year you gave it a 2+. So you were thinking like, stay the course, but look for opportunities. Do you know how that rolled out and?
Well, we've done a lot more work just in our getting out to where people are. Well, and part of that plus was the board supported our fleet of vehicles that's allowing us to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and wasn't it also
Yeah.
part of it, making sure the communities knew about the smaller, the location of the
Drop off.
the temporary
Yeah.
spaces?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was
Yeah.
part of it too.
Yeah, so does that continue to be for this coming year, given what's on your plates? Kind of a 2+ still, or?
I would probably,
Closures, or just stay the
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Just to.
Yeah, I think it too
I
would
think
be.
we have the systems in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
good.
We can hold it for us.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the next steps with these prioritization process, the next steps. Todd, do you want to just kind of talk about how you take these and?
yeah,
Sure.
basically from this, I go and start working with my staff about how can we meet? Especially where there's new areas of emphasis. And we start building our budget from there. So that's what will be happening with that. And then I'll be back in May with showing you our lead plan for doing that.
And during that time that in May, we look at that, we go back and look at these two and say, oh, here is how I changed.
Usually I do with the budget is in the budget narrative, talk about the points that you wanted more emphasis on and show what we're trying to do towards that. And then kind of the next step would be your annual monitoring report showing how we're reaching each of these areas. So it's we kind of have this continual cycle going. You prioritize, we set up the budget, start implementing the budget, have a monitoring report in September, October, and then come back soon afterwards and look at the next.
So 11/23 we prioritize. 12 to what? To when you work on the budget? 12
Through about April.
through April. Okay, budget development, right? And then budget to
May.
is budget to board, right? And then you were gonna say the results report comes in
September.
September, right? So we just did that.
Yeah, September or October.
Yeah. So that kind of flows right into
Actually,
where we are
let's just
now.
say October, because I think we've realized to get the best information
Yeah.
for the board, we
Yeah.
need time to
From the summer.
get the year-end statistics in the summer
Yeah, so that's good. That's the cycle. Try to make it in a little, yeah. We kind of report on what we did last year. We look ahead, we look at trends, budgets developed for the future, back to you all. Implementation, results, reports. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me ask, it's 11:15. I know you have the next and last thing for the work session is the name of the helpful to just kind of talk about some of those things like Todd just threw out about should a name help people find the library? Should a name like are there some sort of criteria or some things that would drive your decision to say, no, yeah, that's kind of like the direction we're going. I don't know if there are other things besides that idea, but yeah, go ahead.
I think for me, one parameter to consider is the intent of the new library. It was presented in the bond, it presented to the voters as being the central library for Deschutes County. And so for me, I think somehow to reflect that is important. I understand location, it's very easy to say it's Stevens Ranch, but I think the intent behind the bond really was to create a centralized library for materials, but also, for the children's discovery and all of that. Well, so for me,
an administrator where the staff is.
Right. But it really is a library for all of Deschutes County.
And that's exactly my feeling. And that's also the input that I've gotten from people in Redmond. This is not a Bend library. This is a county library. Yeah. And I think I agree with you. I think that needs to be something that it's the center of our system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. I mean, going back to the bond measure, it's Central Library is capital C, capital L. It's a name. We told them this is what you're going to build. Central Library. If we now turn around and say, well, not really. Like, oh, well, I don't want to face this all over again. It's Central Library. I'm not sure what you call it. Deschutes Central Library.
Yeah, that's one of the suggestions.
Yeah, that's actually really helpful discussion. Just see, I want to make sure others before we start, because this is going to help you kind of refine your thoughts. But Bunny, you look like you're
and I agree. I think that my question, I had a couple of questions. Will it always remain Central Library? Is it always going to be the center?
Oh, interesting question.
Well, I think,
Good question.
Down the road,
well, just some of the consideration, some of the challenges with Central, and I agree with everything you just said. And some of the challenges are, which we saw because we were calling it Central Library when we were building it at Roble, and that was very confusing for people because they didn't get what it was the center of.
Right.
They were saying it as that's not the center of Bend, and so we had to describe it's the center of the county. So that's just a piece, and I think somehow just trying to figure that piece out. How do we do it with also not putting us in a position where we're constantly trying to describe to people, oh, but really it's this.
Because it is about function and location.
Yeah.
Right.
With this particular building more than others.
Yeah, and so I think Cedar gets back into that whole confusion of, and this new location is not the sense, it's not geographically central.
No.
So yeah, is there another word? And I think we also, it is also designed, that is a function of it, but it's also designed to be a library for all the people well, all the people all over the county, but also the people that live on that side of town.
Mhm.
You know, and so it is functioning as a branch, just like any of our other branches, as far as serving the people that live near it.
So it's library for all and a branch.
Right, and a branch. I mean, that and a branch is an important
Yeah.
component to
Okay,
me.
I'd be very concerned about saying that,
that,
being a branch
okay,
of the library to serve that area of the community.
okay.
The people just voted for me 60-40, saying they don't want that library. And if we say, oh, here's your library and it's 3 times the size of any of the biggest library we have, they're gonna be going, I paid for this? I mean, we're opening up a can of worms if we say the branch library being that large. The bond said, probably not, I mean, proper now, central library. I don't think we can debate it. I think Ann brought it up at one of the meetings. We need to define what we mean by central.
Mhm.
Bottom line, though, at the end of the day is, we said central library. I think we have to have central library in the name. We can't say Southeast Bend Branch Central Library.
So maybe the word branch isn't even that useful because you have Redmond that serves
Yeah,
Redmond.
right,
You know, so
yeah,
maybe
no.
it's not even that useful
Yeah,
to
no,
think.
I'm not talking about
Yeah,
adding
sure.
that to the name. I'm just saying.
Okay.
yes.
I don't think we want to go
Yeah.
geographic
Yeah.
on this thing, because then we end up with the question, what is the geographic center? Is it that the crow flies? Is it the roadway goes?
Mhm.
I mean, Stevens Ranch is being built, it's proposed, who knows what's gonna happen in the next 5-6 years that it's being built out. We go into another recession, he's gonna be sitting there with empty buildings, and we're gonna be sitting there with the Stevens Ranch Library. Because
So,
we've never named the library after a development.
Well, yeah, and I
Right.
don't think anybody,
Right.
is,
Right.
I think we're all.
I
yeah,
think
what you don't want,
we
right?
don't want,
Yeah.
the central library has to be in there. In my mind, it's just a question of, do we say Deschutes Central Library, 27th Street Central Library, if you want to know where it is? But it has to be, or we just say Central Library.
So it seems like there's a lot of, you're kind of
Mhm.
in, like, thinking about that it should reflect the intent of
Mhm.
why you did this in the first place, that it is a centralized administrative center, library for all, et cetera, that has the meeting, gathering children, administrative, all that stuff is there. So,
Yeah, because,
yeah,
you know, people who live in Redmond are gonna go to the Redmond Library. People who live in Sisters are gonna go to the Sisters Library.
Mhm.
There are going to be things that are going to
mhm,
have people going to the central library,
Mhm.
going to this larger. And I think Ray brings up a good point. The fact that it is so much larger, I think you cannot say, oh, it's just exactly the same as the Pine Library. Or it, that doesn't make any.
yeah.
No.
I'll be honest here,
Yeah.
and maybe this is gonna hurt people's feelings, and I'm sorry if it does. But living in a community that is not part of Bend, people who live in Redmond feel that everything is Bend-centric, and they get tired of it. And I think for us to say, oh yeah, that's just another
Okay.
community library, it's just because it's in Bend, theirs is much bigger. That doesn't become inviting to the outlying communities. And I think it's got to be inviting to the outlying communities.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because I think back to when we formed the district.
Right?
When we formed the district to begin with,
Mhm.
in what, 89,
Mhm.
that was the key question.
Yeah.
I mean, you raised the key point in forming the district, is like, why should anybody care if it's all in?
Yeah.
So how do we make it equitable,
Mhm.
Yeah,
not just equal, but
Yeah.
it's equitable for everybody.
Exactly.
Right?
which your whole bond was all
Yes.
really
About everybody.
all about.
Yeah.
All
Everybody in this county is
Yeah.
paying the taxes for
Everybody,
this.
right,
And I like the idea of having Deschutes in there somewhere to reflect that it serves the entire county. And, because it's still, I mean, in a lot of the confusion around all of this, people don't understand that the library district is the whole county.
No, they don't.
And so this has resources for everybody in Deschutes County.
I agree.
And I think if you name it the Deschutes County Library, then it's just a matter, it's up to us to communicate to them that it is, that there are reasons to have the central library in terms of services to the other branches of the community. Not that we want them to come here to the central library to have the services.
The one,
We're not part of the county.
so the one
We're
is.
not-
the-
not county,
just-
it's-
Well, yeah, that's our
Central library, sorry.
Yeah, the Deschutes
Because
Central.
we have
Sorry.
spent years.
Yeah, trying to separate ourselves.
Yeah, no, you're not part of the county,
Okay.
okay. I just wish we had Lane County District Library, I mean, a whole district of Lane County, it's so,
You just need a disaster in order to do it.
so, well, okay.
That's what it takes.
Okay,
It's
well,
always,
just- Okay, all
well, the
right.
library, they'll do it.
So you guys are really about, you've kind of been like thinking about the big idea.
Yeah, I feel like we're like circling around it. We
Yeah.
just-
It's not,
I'm trying to think of that name that it's gonna be obvious that like, oh yeah, people will understand that.
I don't know that they will understand what central means until we define it.
interesting.
All right, so we call it the Deschutes Central Library, and then we start communicating what this means.
What it offers.
What is this library?
Yeah.
The reason I kind of like using the word Deschutes in it, because we have the Bend Library, the Sun River Library, and those are all saying downtown
Yeah.
Bend.
Yeah, they're
It's,
like.
it's just another designation of location, but it's saying this is the whole county.
Yeah, yeah,
I like that a lot.
yeah,
It makes it not Bend centric.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it sense.
Because it's not, right? I mean.
It
it's
is,
really-
And it shouldn't be.
Right.
Call it the Everywhere Central Library.
I mean, you are the Deschutes Library District, right?
Mhm.
Exactly.
This is your
It is.
Oh, we
first ever
specifically named it the Deschutes
public library district, right?
Not the Deschutes County.
Yes. Deschutes Public Library District, so. All right, so Deschutes Library, Deschutes Central Library, these are some of your ideas that you're circling around here. But it's somehow it's not, you're not there, Todd, you're like what?
I actually think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because other pieces like, it's kind of like you're saying about describing what a central library is. That's also part of our job is to get the word about how to find it.
Right.
Yeah.
The one thing we've seen, when we opened the temporary space in Redmond, we thought nobody's gonna find this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people.
And when we had hundreds of people in the first hour, so it's,
Oh,
I have, every time I go in, there are a minimum of 20 people, minimum. I'm going sometimes just before it closes.
Yeah, so.
people don't stumble across the library on their way to something else and say, we'll stop in the library.
Good point.
They go to the library.
It's a
If you're not going to the
destination.
library, you Google it. Find out what that
Yeah.
is, or else you call the library.
Yeah.
But I do like Davenport Bend Library.
I'm holding out for the comfy chairs, comfy chair bins.
I definitely like the old Davenport, like my grandmother.
Oh, you're talking about the furniture?
Yeah,
Davenport?
well,
Oh my God. Classic,
No, what
yeah.
else it would be?
The armoire library.
Yeah, no.
What's this Davenport Bend?
I don't know.
He doesn't know.
What is a Davenport?
No, no,
Isn't it
just
those like
ask.
funny little things you said?
Right, yeah, no, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just know we're inventing a new town.
Yeah,
But
Davenport Island, right?
Davenport Island.
Yeah.
Deschutes Central Library, do you think that in general, people are going to then start referring to it as central?
Yes,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, and that's probably what we would
We
want.
just call it
Yeah.
Central Library.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
But-
did, short.
Just having the formal name, Deschutes Central Library
Mhm.
pulls it
Yeah.
in.
And it would be different enough that if people were like designating holds and
Yeah.
like programming and stuff like that, that would be easy to differentiate from downtown.
Mhm, very much.
It's gonna go on the wall.
Yes, exactly. It'll be on the door. Yes, it'll be on the building.
No, actually, no.
I
No?
think we put we just say Deschutes Public Library.
We-
Oh,
we-
look.
Is it on all of them?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
We
Yeah.
always operate on this assumption that if you've made it that far,
Then,
I like
No.
that.
You're at the library.
yeah,
Okay, so
Is this
every
the
building is
library?
Deschutes Public Library,
I like
every
that.
building, good,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah,
that's good, that's,
Yeah.
okay.
we did that about 10 years
Okay.
ago.
yeah,
Has it always been like that?
For about
it's in
10
10
years.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It used to say Sisters Library in the
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
right.
Just figured.
Yeah,
We
Here,
know
you
you're
probably
in
got
Sisters,
that
yeah,
far.
you got that.
yeah,
Or the-
that's actually, that whole transition you made, even when you have the advisory committees, so that transition is like, it's, the district is all of.
And we were fighting when we said Sisters Library, that people didn't understand that they could use the other libraries.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was limiting.
No, it's just.
yeah.
Right, that if you have a book you need to return, you can
Yeah.
drop it off at
Yeah.
any.
Anywhere,
Yeah.
they didn't get that, yeah.
Or even you still have kiosks in places too, right? Sometimes. Okay.
So I'm not pushing against this name,
Okay,
but there's the piece of me that's just like, I feel like I want another word, which I don't want it longer. But I almost want to, something about me wants, I think I'm used to Deschutes Public Library.
Yeah.
And when I see Deschutes Central Library, I want public there or something, knowing full well that people are gonna call it something.
I don't think it's
Yeah,
necessary. They know it's the public, it's a public library system.
Yeah.
We
yeah,
don't call it the Redmond Public Library.
You're gonna have on the building, Deschutes Public Library.
yeah,
Yeah.
have that on the building,
Yeah, like I said, I like the name, I'm just,
yeah.
there's something in my brain that wants
Yeah.
to see something else, but.
But you will see it, you will see Deschutes Public Library, right?
Yeah.
When it'll be
Oh,
on,
yeah.
everything is branded that way,
Yes.
right?
Same-
Everything.
Same in every location.
Your website, your, in front of every building, etc. Okay,
Right.
and your sweaters too.
Yeah.
So, hey, water bottle.
Yeah,
Okay.
Just for my sake, we did have a few people listing names or evoking indigenous people.
mhm,
And I didn't want us to just poo-poo that,
okay,
but just kind of, I think, one, in my mind, we kind of talked about why we ended up here. The other pieces, those would also have challenges in that it wouldn't help people
mhm,
Understand.
what was
Yeah.
going on.
okay,
Well, one of the people actually put in here, I don't understand why we would make this one branch with a name that isn't based on location. It seems confusing. And that to me, I mean, I understand what they're saying about wanting to honor some aspect of the indigenous, but we haven't done that with any of the other libraries. That seems to me more something like what the schools do,
Or,
naming after a person.
or it's up to us to find ways to do
To
that.
honor
Exactly.
Within
Within the building.
Right, yeah.
like a room could have a name or
Exactly.
something like that.
Our pledge to
Yeah.
honor.
Yeah.
The tribes.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's great. Each branch could
Mhm,
do something like that. They
Yeah.
could name, give a name, like this room could have a name.
mhm.
Down the road, down the road.
Yeah,
Marley Evers, she lived there, right?
really, I was did,
Yeah.
they moved about.
Yeah.
7 years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah,
yeah, but she lived in California.
yeah. So the fact that you maybe wouldn't use that for your big name doesn't mean that you wouldn't take some of that sentiment into,
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
there's so many, I mean, you go down the main road and then it's,
Yeah.
so.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So you're kind of thinking in the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
very
yeah,
helpful.
really helpful. Good. Okay,
So how do we decide?
yeah, what's the next steps?
I don't think we decided.
Well, I think the board makes the decision.
The board will make the decision, correct?
So we're going to public session,
I'm,
propose a name.
So,
I don't know, well, just give me a sense of consensus.
Yeah.
Around,
Yeah.
I'm getting the sense that we have consensus around Deschutes Central Library. I don't know if that needs a formal
We never have.
resolution or anything. So, yeah,
But we don't have to vote on it, you're saying, ever.
I know.
Okay.
Or you can do a 1 to 5 if you want.
None unless we should check the policies. Something is in my brain about executive limitations, policies about naming. Can
Oh, I don't
somebody,
Well, let's
Could
just
we
say
just
we have
check that?
consensus now.
I completely
and
could
do
be-
some more research.
I actually think it's in the community college set of policies, probably,
Yeah.
that I did.
We're
But
confused
I
in that.
doubt we have anything about.
Okay,
just
but
because.
it's, I know it's been in some policies that I've worked with,
Yeah.
other groups, so check.
Yeah,
Okay,
But
not that I ever remember, but I know it's in some other ones that I,
Mhm.
yeah.
we will not incorporate that.
It is one that sometimes people, some words will say,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, just, okay. All right, so next step is like,
I think we just have to come up with a plan around starting to shift how we're doing that without confusing people.
okay,
Because it's been.
okay.
Well, tell Greg to start referring to it as
Right.
the central
And
library.
then in all of our,
Yeah.
Stop writing since Stephen's free.
Yeah.
Stephen's granted you it, and that's it.
I could probably, and I'm just spitballing here, but see us probably like on our webpage, starting to call it the Shoot Central Library at Stevens Ranch.
Okay.
We'll slowly have
Okay.
And then get rid of the Stephen's Ranch.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, really,
People don't know where
nobody knows
Stevens
where
Ranch is.
No.
Yeah,
No, because
They
it
will.
doesn't exist totally.
they will at some point.
yeah,
But,
good.
so, yes. no,
Okay, so
that is
everybody
right.
good on this, like on a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5,
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, yay, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the Twitter X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
The neighbor impact, formerly
Yeah.
known as.
Yeah.
I don't want it to go, I don't want the transition to go on very.
No,
long.
I think
No,
we'll do it
Yeah.
slowly at first and then,
Yeah.
yeah.
good. Good. And you'll let staff know.
And actually,
obviously.
You would not say formally, no.
by the time we get to,
Yes,
yeah,
previously
Yeah.
known
and
as.
we have some options, because a lot of people the majority of the people aren't as in tune
No.
as we are with this. But they will start,
They
as we
will.
start building it, so
Yeah.
we have opportunities before we do groundbreaking to really start pushing.
And-
it.
yeah.
There are people who still think that we are
Yes.
building at Rover Road.
Yes.
I've got people say, how are they gonna be able to do that with all the construction with the roundabouts?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
happening
not
there.
happening there. Okay,
Well, we're giving a new roundabout at Wilbur.
yeah. And you have your hand up, or no?
No, I was
Agreeing.
just, I was
Okay,
agreeing, I
yeah,
was just
good.
thinking thoughts, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the goal today was main goal was to prioritize your results policies. And then have a discussion of which we kind of surprised ourselves, I think, about the result of like what your thinking was and around the name. And you're gonna go into a formal board meeting
Yeah.
right
And
after.
within 10 minutes.
Yes.
So we have food.
Yeah,
that we can
okay.
eat before.
So thank you all and bravo to you. I'm really,
Yes.
it's so exciting to see this all evolve. Well done.
Thanks, Margot.